Hi there, my name is Mark and welcome to this companion video which goes along with my blog post. I hope that you're accidentally here in the same way that I am accidentally here. I was challenged a number of weeks ago by a friend to do something new and I wanted to build a website and I used the Webflow platform to do it, but after a short period of time I realized that there's no point building a website if you have nothing to put on it. So I created a series of kind of a section for blog posts and I thought, well, I need to actually write something there. So I thought I would take the opportunity to lay down some thoughts. So it's been quite an enjoyable creative process that I have been going through over the last number of weeks. So the blog which this is referencing is one called Taking Territory. Now, undoubtedly that sounds quite martial, quite militaristic, and I'm sure over the next course of periods of writing there will be reference to military doctrine, and I think that there are lessons and everything that we can actually benefit from military doctrine, and there's lessons that can be applied to life as a result of that. Now, you may have heard of a chap from the late 16th century, early 17th century called Thomas Hobbes. He was an English philosopher and writer, and he stated that humans, men are in the state of war in and of themselves, and I think that was in and of themselves, but certainly men are in a state of war. And I don't tend to disagree with him in the sense that I believe that we're at war mentally, intellectually, and spiritually. And this would suggest, of course, that there are outside forces attacking us and that we need to take some sort of defensive or offensive action in response to that. Now, I think what has been really interesting over this last couple of years, and I'm recording this now in 2022, that I think we're almost at the end of what you would call the Pax Romana, since the fall of communism in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s. We've been going through this kind of strange period where I think that people thought that, we were entering a new world and things were changing. But as I say, I think these last few years have taught us that life is more fragile than perhaps what we had given it credit for. So is there actually an antidote or a response to this? Well, perhaps there is. For me, I think it lies in an element of rugged individualism and self-reliance. And I think that's the only way that we're actually going to get ahead into the future. So in a sense, I think that we create a state or an area of, basically a period of peace through strength in ourselves. And I'm not even necessarily talking about physical strength, I'm talking as much about intellectual and moral strength. And I think it behooves each individual that if individual units are strong and prepared, that cascades upward. So I think each one of us has to do work in this area. And I think that what we want to do, and I think what is our responsibility, especially down at the family level, is to bring order and predictability to our environment. Because that's we want to live in an area that's not maybe necessarily absolutely 100% order, but we want to live in an area that's generally reasonably predictable. And we put walls around that to protect that. Now, on the other side of those walls, what is there? Well, there's chaos, there's the unknown, but also perhaps there lies opportunity. And this is really interesting. Now, if you can imagine a military commander who's been placed in a forward operating base somewhere, for example, I don't know, out in Africa or West or Afghanistan or somewhere, whenever they're put in that location on their own, they're maybe initially quite safe, surrounded by all the HESCO protection and all the sandbags and everything that are surrounding them and the various sentries, and maybe they've got food and they've got ammunition. But just staying still, you're never going to be safe. You have to be proactive. You have to be active in your safety and your defense. So the commander will send out troops to patrol and do footprint patrols around that area. They want to look and see what's coming, what's in the area. If there's dead spots that can't be seen from the base itself, they want to check in there. They want to get a sense and an understanding of what lies beyond their immediate environs, so that, you know, that if they need to escape or they need to advance or they need to do something, they have a mental map and a reading of that. So, as I was saying as well, it's very important that we have our domestic, or essentially that area, that our environs, which are under our control, in good order. Because at some point, the Visigoths will assault the Salarian Gate. They will turn up at the walls. And if we don't have ourselves in good order, if the house, as it were, is divided, you know, the house will fall. So this is really important, that we sort our lives out internally and we're looking after what's in our charge, and that we're also looking a little bit into the distance to see what lies outside of us. Now, I view the area of our dominion and that we're responsible for, we should be, I think, benevolent monarchs, almost scholar kings. We should be caring, we should be nurturing, we should be maintaining, and indeed we should be protecting those that fall within the bailiwick of our care. And the point I would make is, see, if you aren't doing that, somebody else is. And that's a big thing to think about. You know, if you're not taking charge, you're not taking responsibility, and you're not caring, someone else is doing it for you. And maybe just one very simple example of that could be your children and social media. If you haven't got the walls up, if you're not protecting, if you're not monitoring, nefarious actors or influencers are getting to the minds of your children, and you need to obviously think about this and be able to protect. And there's many other examples of this. Now, when it comes to landholders, and I'm thinking here maybe in the physical sense, landholders have rights, but of course there are responsibilities. There are the taxes that have to be paid. Land that you are in charge of and that you take care of, it must be productive. You can't allow it to lie fallow. So much of this, in terms of the thinking about it, is how can we improve, how can we make things better, how can we get more out of life, how can we be more engaged with what we're doing. And that's kind of what this blog and what this website and what everything I'm trying to do is, to investigate this and to dig deeper into it so that we can have life and much more of it. So over the next while, I intend to touch on certain philosophical elements. I'm no philosopher, but I've got certainly an interest in it. I want to give practical insights, as I say, so that we can engage with the world as we find it, and that we can work to improve it, to improve ourselves, and working using the God-given strengths and talents that we have. And most importantly, looking out for our neighbours and the vulnerable and those that we have an ability and a responsibility to care for, because not everyone is able to. And if we are in a position of responsibility, and we should be seeking to take on as much responsibility as we can, make sure that we're caring for those at the fringes and those near and dear to us. So as part of this, how are we going to do it? I guess that one of the things I would suggest is that we want to pursue excellence. And I think perhaps this could be misunderstood. You know, maybe people think of celebrity and other areas whenever they think of excellence. All I'm really thinking about is, and I nearly hate to use the expression, to be the best version of you, but it really is. You've got, as I mentioned, skills, talents and abilities. And so many of us often hide these under, basically hide them under bushels. And I think you've got to let your light shine. You've got to kind of just gradually, slowly work out what you're good at and bring this to the world. Bring it to society, bring it to your workplace, bring it out, and let everybody benefit from the best version that exists inside of you. I hate that expression, best version, but you know what I mean. So I really want to drill down into that point over the coming weeks and months. Look, what I have to say may or may not resonate with you. Please weigh it up. If you disagree, I think that's great. I think we can all have good neighbourly disagreement. But I think that there will be indeed a kernel of truth in what I have to say, and just as I believe that there is a kernel of truth in what people who even I disagree with say as well. And I think that there is elements of truth and eternal principle that we can look at and we can listen to and we can absorb, and we can take it on a daily basis, and it can benefit us and benefit those around us. So I very much hope with this work that I'm doing, that which I have to say I'm really enjoying, that there will be thoughts and ideas that will certainly help someone out there. And even as they always say, if it's just one person, it definitely makes it worth it. So listen, thank you for tuning in, and I'll speak soon.